I've told this story before on socials years ago, so if you've heard it already, I'm really sorry, but I feel like it's good enough that you can hear it twice or even 3 times. Okay, I don't even remember what year it was, but ew, I don't wanna start my stories with what year it was because I feel like old people do that. All I know is that I was still in school. I'm pretty sure I was in university, so, like, I must have been at least, like, 21 or 22 years old, and I had just finished school. I was going to Concordia or Loyola. I was getting into my Ford Focus. I drove to my mom's house where I knew that nobody was home, and I was like, "I'm gonna smoke a joint in her driveway, and then I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna relax, I'm gonna watch some movies, chill out," and that's what I did, okay? So I get inside the house, I'm, like, rummaging through all the cupboards, obviously, like, getting all my favorite snacks. I'm sitting on the couch, eating on the couch where I absolutely should not be, and I'm about to put some TV on, and, like, I know that there's nobody coming home, right? So, all of a sudden, the fucking doorbell rings. Now, when you are as high as I was and the doorbell rings, I don't know why your first instinct is like, the cops are at the door. I'm going through the whole, the cops are at the door scenario. Like, what am I going to tell them? Like, what am I supposed to say? But at this point, I've like melted myself off of the couch onto the carpet. Okay. So I'm like practically on the carpet. And I'm like, if I crawl just a little bit, I can actually get to the window and I can peek down to see who's at the door, right? So, like as if I'm in the military, okay? I'm crawling on the fucking floor. I'm getting to the window. I open it a little bit and I see a kid, okay? Like a young guy. I don't know why. This is the next thought that comes to my mind. I said, oh, it must be a Boy Scout selling me cookies. At this point, I've like really chilled out. And I'm like, it's fine. It's just a Boy Scout and he just wants to sell me cookies. So naturally, I did what anybody else who would not want to buy Boy Scout cookies would do. And I told the boy very loudly because I screamed it. I screamed it from the floor and I said, "We don't want any." He rings the doorbell again. I say, this is a persistent motherfucker who really wants to sell these fucking Boy Scout cookies. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is wild. Like, I could get up at this point because it's not the police. So I scream again very confidently, "We don't want any of your cookies." After that, there was a pause. Okay, so I'm thinking, what's he gonna do next? What's his next move? And then I hear, "I just have your mail. It's your neighbor." And I just want to let you know that I didn't really live in my mom's house, so I didn't really know any of her neighbors. So when I looked out the window, I absolutely had no fucking idea that was the neighbor. But that is how I met the neighbor, not that day, because I absolutely did not have it in me to get up and go to the door. And so I said, "You can leave it at the door." And then I peeked back out the window and I watched him leave our driveway and then just quite literally just go into the house next door because it actually was the neighbor. And so that is how I met our neighbor, Alessandro.
Here I am, just trying to be myself. It's a crazy world, looking to find my place, and all they do is la 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 la.
I mean, I used to smoke, I used to drink, and now it's just like, I don't even know why I'm like this. And it's not even because of Mounjaro, because it's been before Mounjaro that I don't know what it is. Like, drinking doesn't interest me that much. Smoking, like, I used to be a heavy cigarette smoker and I am not anymore, which is so wild. Like, I can actually have the occasional cigarette if I'm out with friends and then not even think about a cigarette for another 6 months. And then I can go to Italy and I'll smoke for like a month or 2 months and then I'll go the rest of the year and I won't smoke at all, which is like, it's crazy to me that I have managed to be able to control these things that I used to think were these huge addictions, which I mean, they definitely were huge addictions. But I've always had a very addictive personality. And I just remember my whole life always being worried for myself. If I liked something too much, I'd be like, oh my God, I just have the most addictive personality. Like whether it comes to like alcohol or drugs or like people, friends, boyfriends, just like anything that I liked, I feel like I would just overdo it until I absolutely ruined it or it ruined me. And so part of my journey, my mental health journey, was really understanding that nothing in the world could control me. Like, especially as somebody who always wants control so badly, I've always wanted to control everything in my life. And I feel like a lot of the root trauma of my anxiety is wanting to control things because I felt like I had such a lack of control when I was a kid. So growing up and realizing that I had addictions to, various different things, especially cigarettes being probably one of the biggest ones, I never thought I would stop smoking. I was like, fuck, smoking just makes my day so much better. I loved smoking with my coffee. I loved smoking when I was driving, like smoking with a beer. Like, even now when I think back to it, I'm like, those are really good memories. But like, I never thought that there would be a period where I didn't absolutely crave a cigarette. And I was able to, with just really like a simple mentality switch, I was just like, am I really that weak of a person that I'm going to let myself be controlled by cigarettes or marijuana or alcohol or this person or that person? And then once I kind of figured out that I was like, absolutely nothing and nobody controls me, it was like all my addictions just stopped because I just wanted them to. And you don't even have cravings after, which is crazy. But anyways, I really got sidetracked there for a second. But all of that to say is that I don't normally smoke. But the other day we went to Oka. And so I picked up this little vape over here. And I guess because I'm not used to smoking, I've been doing it like a bit out of habit, but like not even because I want it. And while I was trying to set up the camera, I realized that I initially grabbed it because I was like, I'm just going to take like one little hit. I didn't even fucking realize that I've been hitting it for like half hour. So this is going to be a much better episode for you. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Barely Edited. My name is Bianca Vena. And I'm not even going to give you a Mounjaro update because honestly, I haven't weighed myself in about a week because I've been eating. And what I think is happening is that I got to the end of my 2.5 milligrams, like my body's used to it. And so I started getting hungry at the end of last week. So I obviously ate a bit more. Then I checked my app, Flow, okay? And Flow was like, you're getting your period in about 6 days. So I was like, okay, this makes sense. I went up a dose on Sunday to 5 milligrams. And I honestly think that I had an allergic reaction to it. Like I literally still have a hive on my arm. And I don't know if it's from the Mounjaro, but I'm assuming that it is. I didn't feel anything else beside this. Like I just got a little bit itchy. And I had these like 2 little bubbles. I ended up taking an antihistamine because I just wasn't feeling amazing. Like I felt like I was having an allergic reaction, but I don't know to what exactly. I have a lot of allergies. I have a lot of food allergies. And I tend to eat things that I'm allergic to, which I know you're thinking is like, wow, you like really live life on the edge. Because I feel like anything I'm allergic to, I could probably get my body to unbe allergic to it. And if you're laughing, don't, because literally half of the things that I eat, I used to be allergic to. Pretty much all fruits, a lot of veggies, nuts, like I'm allergic to all of them. And slowly in the years, just like eating a little bit here and there, I've actually convinced my body that I'm not allergic to a lot of these things, which is wild, but it does work. Your doctor will never recommend this because anytime I speak to my doctor about this, he literally tells me that I need to absolutely stop doing this because I'm like steps away from death. I don't know how true that is because I tell him that I do it like maybe a quarter of how much I actually do it. Please don't play this at my funeral if I go down with fruits, veggies, or nuts. That's how Moonji is going right now. I'm going to weigh myself on Sunday because I'm just too ashamed to do it right now. I actually went out with people on Friday. It was such a good time. I went out with a couple that we met, that we actually did their wedding. We filmed and photographed their wedding. I would love to have the bride that I'm talking about on the podcast. I feel like you would fucking love her. Like it was such an honor for me to be able to do their wedding, but truly, I'm so happy to have met them. I get along with them so well. Steph gets along with the husband really well. Like I really, really love them. And I'm hoping to have her on the podcast in February at some point. But basically, all of this to say, we went out. It was such a good time. And then at the end of the night, we were leaving the restaurant that we were at, and there was a huge fight outside. And when I mean huge, I mean like there was literally 25 different people involved in this fight. There was a bunch of guys that were fighting, and there was this one fucking girl, okay? And I don't know if maybe she was dating someone in the group because then, I mean, it definitely would make a little bit more sense. But what I won't do is start hitting someone, like jumping on them, punching them, pushing them over and over again while they are beating up somebody else. And then be extremely surprised if at a certain point I end up getting hurt, okay? Whether it be on purpose or by accident. And so I was watching this one girl because there was so much going on. Literally, we came out to get into our car. And as we came out, it was just like, all these little fights started to break out next to us, like two here, two here, three here, two there, four there, like so fucking random. And there was just this one girl. And like, before you say anything like, oh, you didn't go defend her, trust me, she did not need any fucking defending, okay? If anything, they needed defending from her. This girl was going around like nailing all of these guys in the fucking head, like with her purse, with her fist. Like, listen, they weren't that far from me. She was fucking punching them so hard. And surprisingly, none of these guys turned around and gave her an elbow because they could have at any point, because literally she was right there jumping. And what was annoying is that these guys were fighting about their own fucking shit. I don't even know what it was about. Honestly, I just heard a bunch of yelling in French. We were in Laval, so it was just ta gueule, blah, 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 blah. Like, just I didn't even know what the fuck was going on because everybody was drunk also. So I feel like when you're French and you're like real Quebecois and you get past the point of being too drunk, I don't even know what they were saying. So they were just like, I can't even say that they were beating each other up that hard because it was like they were all drunk. It was just like floppy and like dragging each other on the floor. But the girl, she was like alert and she was beating, okay? At a certain point, she literally like tripped on her own feet because the guys were fighting and moving, okay? And she falls down. I look at my friends. I said, but how much do you want to bet that this girl is going to start saying that somebody hit her? Within like 2 minutes, okay, she started with, hey, he did this. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, okay, this is just wild. We're about to leave again at this point, but another fight breaks out. Another one. And who is at the forefront of this fucking fight, even though I don't think she had anything to do with anything? This random girl again. And she's back there, boom, boom, boom. And I see the guy that's fighting with someone on the other side, right? Because he's fighting. She's hitting him from the back. At this point, I don't even know if it's the same guy she was just defending like 2 minutes ago. At a certain point, the guy just stopped and turned around, okay? I don't know what he said to her, but she backed off for a second. As soon as he turned back around, she kept going. Yeah, I'll be honest. If I was this guy, my elbow would have definitely slipped. Pick your battles, bitch. This girl kept going. Finally, the guy turns around. He pushes her, okay? And I hear him say, like, stop or whatever, because he's not able to beat up the other guy who is now hitting him from the back while he's turning around to tell the girl to stop. What happens in the process of him saying stop? She falls, hits her head on the floor outside. Oh my God. Now, within 5 minutes, all of the police of Laval was in front of this restaurant. Everybody, the police from Laval and the police from Montreal and God knows where else, because the whole parking lot was full of the police. To be able to punch a man, push a man, kick a man. This is not even just for this fight. I'm saying in general, okay? If you are ready to throw hands with a man, I feel like you should really expect to have them thrown back at you, because it doesn't make sense to me that girls can go around punching and hurting men and then thinking that they're not allowed to touch you back because you're a woman. Like, if you're going to put yourself in that position, that's wild of you. And the fucking audacity to think that if you punch a man enough times, he is wrong for hitting you back, okay? Because nobody should be putting hands on anybody. Whether you're a man hitting a woman hitting a man, nobody should be hitting anybody. This is a rule that even I knew when I was in that relationship. Listen, at a certain point, you get your ass kicked so many times that you start to defend yourself. And at this point, if I knew that I was getting it anyway, you better know that I figured I was going to at least practice or train myself to fight if ever I needed it in my life. And I did. But I also knew that if I tried to punch him and I hit him in the face, I was probably going to get punched twice as hard right after that. But I probably had to expect it, no? I'm just saying. I know that not everybody's going to agree with this conversation, but the reason I'm saying it is because there are so many situations where women are not believed when it comes to domestic violence because of people who lie and because of people who are not telling the entire story when something happens. When it comes to domestic violence in relationships, there's definitely it's around more people than that are around you than you know. And sometimes it's around people that you have absolutely no fucking idea and you would never imagine. And just because somebody seems a certain way, it doesn't mean that they're not a completely different way when they're alone. Because I can tell you that when I was with my ex, like, granted, he was a psychopath and it's not like he did a great job hiding it, but if we met brand new people and he wanted to act like a completely sane person, he was able to the point where, like, sometimes he would even convince me and I was like, am I fucking crazy? Like, because it's just not matching up. But like, that's what it is when somebody's just like psychotic and has problems like way beyond anything that you're able to solve. They can make you look fucking crazy. And it's the same thing with this girl, because I saw her crying to the cop and I literally had to fight every fucking bone in my body not to go up to the cop and just say, honestly, if you would have just seen what she just did, like, Mike Tyson over here, like, you would not have been feeling bad for her. You would probably be arresting her. Because, like, honestly, out of everybody, she's the one who got the most shots in. So, anyways, that's just my 2 cents, okay? Nobody should be hitting anybody. I'm not condoning, like, even man to man, woman to woman, like, nobody should be putting hands on anybody. And that's coming from somebody that, I have to say, you know that saying that they say, you are a mosaic of all the people that you've ever loved. Unfortunately, I've loved a lot of fucked up people. And so after I left this relationship, one of the like really nasty traits that I took with me was violence. And so I would say for like a good probably 5 years after that relationship, I was just a very violent person. And so I was always very angry. I was like a thrower, okay? So like if you aggravated me in any way, shape, or form, whatever was around me that I could just throw or break, I absolutely would. I wasn't necessarily like violent towards a person, okay? Like if you pissed me off, I wasn't gonna like come at you. But I would probably like destroy everything around me. Like at a certain point, I remember when I was dating Steph in the beginning, like I would just get angry and just punch a hole through my wall. And like I remember when he came to live with me at my dad's, he was like, "You have so much stuff hanging in your room." And I was like, most of them are hiding holes. It was just a very angry girl after I left that relationship. I think for a long time, I just felt like I was so weak and I felt like, how could I have let a man beat me up? And so anytime I had any anger, I would just take it out by fighting. When you're in a relationship for so long that you're constantly getting into physical altercations, your body goes into this like survival mode of like you're always ready to kill someone in case they're trying to kill you. And so my body was in that state for a really long time. And honestly, sometimes I feel like I still am in it because I spent so much time in it that my body doesn't know how to revert to going back to just like relaxing. I think I see that maybe once in a while when I get sick. That's when my body probably chills out for a sec, but maybe not even, to be honest. But it took a really long time for me to kind of get over the aggression state of my life because at a certain point, I think it was probably like the second year, like third year that Stefano and I were together, that he just looked at me and he was like, if you break one more thing, I am going to break up with you. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. Because I would just break everything and then he would have to fix it. And I literally would break something like every single day. Like it didn't even have to be him who would piss me off. Like it could have just been like my parents said something to piss me off, or like a client said something to piss me off, or like that I took too seriously. And I just could not control my emotions. And my ex had taught me that when you couldn't control your emotions, you would just break things. And so that was probably one of my hardest things that I had to unlearn was like not touching things. Like now when I get mad, I just have to like keep it together. Like what did Steph call it? I think he used to call it like Hulk Bia because I would just get so mad and I would just want to fucking smash it all the time. And I would feel so good. And then right after it would break, I would feel so horrible, like a literal piece of fucking shit. And so after a bit, I don't know what it would honestly, you know what it was? I think it was during COVID. We had Stefano upstairs has a gym that he built and there's a big boxing sack. And I think while I was going through a lot of my like life discoveries during that period, I also discovered the boxing bag and I I used that for like I don't even know how many months. Until honestly, I feel like the anger maybe just left me. I don't know where it went, but it went somewhere. I feel like we absolutely need to talk about the TikTok ban. The TikTok ban was so stupid, but it made me realize a lot of things about America. When all of the Americans were off of the app, wow, the comment sections were so fucking nice. So all I want to know is like, America, why are you so angry all the time? And why do you always choose violence in the comments and anger? You guys cannot be that miserable of people. Like, granted, I know that you're having it rough right now, but that is no way to treat your neighbors. Oh, and then the comments, okay? The comments of people who keep telling me that Canada is soon going to be part of the United States of America. Like, please, please don't say these things. I will be straight. I was about to say straight on a boat to Europe. I will be straight on an airplane to Europe. A one-way ticket to Italy. There was a lot of different influencers who participated in the trend of since it's our last day and we're all gonna die, I have one more thing that I need to tell you trend. And then they would admit to like a lie that they've told or like something that they haven't been truthful about on their page. And I just want to know something. Did these influencers think that after TikTok there was nothing left for them? Like, do you not have a fucking Instagram account? Like, did you think that admitting to something that could quite literally ruin your career? Were you really trying to just end it all there? Because I'm so confused. Like, there's some accounts that just made. Okay, we're gonna take Meredith, for example. Okay, like this is a silly one, but I feel like most people must know her. She's the girl that used to do the 10 pumps of foundation in her hand and then rub it all over her face and say that that's how she did her makeup. And so that's really how she became famous. Now, I understand that in a sea full of makeup artists, you definitely want to stand out. Absolutely. But the point is that once she became famous and like only got more famous, people were like, let's be fucking honest though, you didn't use 10 pumps of foundation. And she was like, absolutely, that's, like my thing and blah, blah, blah. And like, don't knock it till you try it. And she would say that people tried it and like praised her for how wrong she had been because like it's really like the perfect way to put your makeup and blah, blah, blah. And her her thing that was part of the trend was she said, the truth is that like I didn't use all those pumps. Like I would wipe off the pumps before I would put it on my fucking face. And so now everybody online is like influencers are such liars. And I mean, are you shocked? I'm not shocked. But you're making everybody look like assholes now. I feel like people already don't believe the things that anybody says online. But when you put it like that, and it's like she's one of many influencers who posted about something that just makes your page look completely fucking bullshit. And I just don't understand why. Because even if TikTok did not come back literally 12 hours later, okay? Because I could just imagine how some of these people felt after admitting to some of these things. And then the next day, like literally by the time they fucking woke up, TikTok was back. Like you literally just went to bed for the night and that was it. It was gone. And then you came back in the morning and it was there with you. So anyways, I just thought that that was so fucking wild that anybody would do something like that. It's like, I get that they said they thought that TikTok was shutting down, but like, did you think it was going to shut down forever? Like, you couldn't have been that naive to actually think they were going to remove it for forever for like, did I think that it was going to last 12 hours? No. That even surprised me because I was actually ready for like a little pause from TikTok because like I said last time, I'm on Rednote now and I fucking love Rednote. So I thought that I was going to get a little bit more time to like grow my profile on Rednote, which I am still doing because I actually do prefer it. There's no insults, there's no weird comments, no sexualized anything. It's like sex is banned on Rednote pretty much. It's like a very vanilla app, but it's kind of like wholesome and everybody, everybody calls me their Canadian friend and they compliment you and they're just like super friendly, like, and they like write you poems and stuff. Like, who the fuck has ever written you a poem on TikTok? La, 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 la. When I have my friend Jackie on the podcast, we're going to talk about dating apps because I have absolutely no experience with dating apps. I actually joined Tinder for like maybe 3 minutes when my ex had broken up with me years ago. And in those 3 minutes, I had just seen enough. And so I deleted it after 3 minutes. And so that was as far as I went. I never spoke to anybody, never went on any dates. And so my experience in like this generation, I don't really have any experience dating in this generation at all. And so I just find it so insane now that like my single friends just like scroll apps. Like you just like scroll your phone and you just find men and you're like, I like you. Let's meet tomorrow. And it's crazy because my generation grew up in a world of stranger danger and don't talk to people you don't know on the internet and don't invite people you don't know to your house or get into their car or go on dates with them. And now we do all of these things. We like willingly invite these people into our house. Like I get someone from Uber here every single evening. And that's so creepy. I actually had a really creepy Uber delivery the other day. I thought I had to call the cops, but the reason I'm saying this, okay, I have the worst fucking segues into things. I'm going to tell you now the story of my stalker. This stalker stalked me for about 4 years. The police was involved. They never found who this person was. I'm going to start off with a little bit of suspense. It's the truth though. They didn't ever find who he was, where he was. But sit down, buckle up, and hold on to your underpants. I was in high school at the time. I'll just tell you this much. And at that time, I didn't realize how lucky I was because I was in such good fucking shape. Why? Because I walked everywhere. My friends and me, we were just like the track and fucking field committee. Like all we did was walk everywhere all the time. Majority of my high school life was spent just on foot, walking from A to B, anytime, anywhere with my friends. I think it was probably around 50 when I started sneaking out of my house. And, I would like build like the pillow fort in like my body shape just in case my dad peeked in and, or my mom peeked in. And I would sneak out of my house and I would go see my friends and then I would just like come back in the middle of the night, whatever. Nobody knew. Honestly, the fucked up thing is that I never got caught, which is so wild. I can never go back in time and get caught. Crazy. This is when it started, okay? I would sneak out and there was always this car that would follow me, but the car was never close enough for me to see who was in it or a license plate or anything like that. But they were always like, let's say I'm walking down this street, they would like pass the street in front of me, okay? I couldn't see through the windows, even the passenger windows. But this car was always around. And like, I remember even with friends sometimes, people would be like, oh, we've seen this car before. And like, I didn't really say anything at first because I guess when you're young, you're like not thinking that somebody's stalking you. And like, I don't know. I was probably like 14 or 15 years old. Like, I didn't even know what the fuck stalking was. But I certainly knew that it wasn't happening to me, or so I thought. And so that's kind of how it started, was like this car kind of, I would just often see it appear. But I feel like I grew up in the West Island in Montreal. And so, when you're kind of like in that area, if you always hang out in that area, it's not impossible to see the same car or the same people. Like it's happened before. I kind of just chalked it up to, okay, maybe I'm just being like dramatic and I'm not being followed. Like there's no way. I would see this car more and more and more. And the first time something really fucked up happened, I was at home. We still had house phones at the time. And I remember I was living alone with my dad. My dad used to leave, back then, he used to leave, I think at maybe like 6 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes I would get phone calls from Italy, since we're like 6-7 hour difference. Sometimes like his friends from Italy would call really early in the morning to try to get him before work. And sometimes they would call like maybe half an hour later and they would miss him. And so the phone would ring super loudly, because I always had it near me just in case, like, if I didn't wake up, my mom or my dad would call, right? I remember there was a morning that the phone was, like, blaring in my fucking ear, and so I was completely asleep, picked up the phone just, like, out of fucking habit, said hello, and my body's, like, instantly thinking this is for sure one of my dad's friends, right? I just remember hearing on the phone, "Hi, Bianca," and so I went, "Hi." But, like, keep in mind, I'm fully asleep here. I don't even know what's going on. I'm on autopilot. The person goes, "Is your dad home?" And so again, thinking that it's one of his friends, I remember saying, "No, you actually just missed him. Like he just left for work." And then I remember, like, in the midst of my sleep, I remember hearing his voice say, "Oh, so you're home alone then?" And I swear, I just remember my eyes going like Like, motherfucker, this is what my parents have always warned me of. This is happening to me right now and I need to be alert. And I went, oh, I'm sorry, actually, you're right. He is home. Like, let me go get him for you. Hangs up the phone. My dad ended up actually being home. He had overslept that morning. And when I ran into his room, he actually was in his room, but he shouldn't have been. So at that point, I tell him what happened. We're both like kind of groggy and half asleep. And so I feel like he didn't maybe believe me, or like maybe he thought that I understood wrong. I don't know. I just remember like it wasn't like a thing. And then I was like, okay, maybe I just imagined it. Every single day, I would keep getting phone calls like at all hours of the day. It would be in the morning, like afternoon, night. Sometimes it would also be when my dad was there. And like sometimes my dad would actually pick up the phone and you would literally just hear breathing. That's it. Okay. And I'll never forget, like, sometimes my dad would make me answer the phone and then he would say, like, oh, say hello, like, like pretend you're by yourself or whatever. And if I would answer the phone, he would say, hi, Bianca, how are you? Like, I feel like I remember him saying, it's Joe, but my dad's name is Joe. So, like, I think when I was little, I was always confused. I was like, is this fucking guy's name Joe? Or, like, is he fucking with me? I have no idea. Anyways, I just remember him. If I would answer the phone, he would talk to me. But if my dad answered the phone, he would just breathe and then he would hang up. This is starting to get more and more weird. My dad's kind of starting to think, like, what the fuck's going on? Like, something is odd. Like, just be careful when you go out, blah, blah, blah. And so when I was going out during the day, like, my parents would obviously check on me and, like, I could tell them if I saw anything weird. But because I was still sneaking out at night, like, I know, okay, I know. Because I was still sneaking out at night like a dumbass, I obviously couldn't tell them that part. I couldn't be like, by the way, yesterday at 3:30 in the morning, I snuck downstairs and left the door unlocked while I fucking went out gallivanting and probably smoking weed with somebody's son in DDO. Like, what was I couldn't say anything. So I just remember, like, I was like, okay, this is probably not a big deal, like, whatever. Then one night, okay, I remember I wasn't feeling super well. I had just finished doing like homework or something. And after dinner with my dad, I went up to my bedroom and I closed my light and I went to bed. Like, I was getting in bed. And I just remember when I closed my light, one of the windows at my dad's house is like on the main street, right? So when I closed my light, the phone started to ring. And so I answered the phone and the guy said, you're going to sleep already. Right, so at that point, I'm like, "What in the fuck?" I'm also upstairs, my dad's downstairs, so I don't wanna start screaming for him to listen, but, like, I want him to pick up the phone so we could fucking hear what's going on, and so I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "You're going to sleep already. Or he said, "You're going to sleep already. You turned off your light." And so at that point, I'm shitting my fucking pants because I'm like, "How the fuck else would you know this?" I don't know, I didn't know what the fuck was going on at this point, right? Like, this felt like a movie straight out of When a Fucking Stranger Calls. That's exactly what I felt like. I was that person. And so this guy's telling me that my light's turning off too early. Like, why am I going to bed? I don't even remember honestly, it's just a black space after that because I think my brain went in like tilt and I was like, what the fuck is going on? I know that we called the cops that night and cops said that I just remembered this part. We didn't even have caller ID. I did not have caller ID on this house phone if I'm not fucking mistaken. Could that be? All I know is maybe we had caller ID, but it was a private number, but I think it was like a star 31 star type vibe. Like, I don't even know. All I know is that when we called the cops, they said that they couldn't get his phone number. And so I said, you can't like do something on my phone where like anybody who calls, like you can see whose number it is, like whether it's private or not. And I just remember the cops saying that they would like monitor it. Okay. And I don't know what the fuck that meant. But my dad felt confident that if the guy would call back, the cops would be able to find out who it was. The guy didn't call back. Okay. So after a couple weeks go by, like 3 weeks go by, we are in touch with the cops again. And the cops are like, listen, the guy's not calling you. Like, c'est fini. Like, we scared him. It's chill. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I sneak out one night with one of my friends. Okay. Her name's Mel. We sneak out. We walk from my house to this place called Baffin Park. And I go meet up with some loser that I was dating at the time. Okay. And like thinking about it now, like this is so fucked up because this guy was like a very large guy. And so we met at the park, whatever, because we had to smoke a joint. So I remember we get there, whatever, we smoke the joint, we're all cracked. And while we're standing there, we start hearing like a car peeling around the park. So we're obviously thinking at first like it's some kid just like having fun, whatever. But then as I get a glimpse of the car, I'm like, that car looks awfully familiar. And if I'm not mistaken, I had already told Mel like a bit about the situation, but like nobody believed me. And I still remember Mel's face that night because she did not believe me. Mel, if you're listening to this, I know you didn't believe me until you did believe me. And so we were standing, all three of us, at this corner. And I at that point realized that it was him. And I'm like, this is kind of fucking creepy. But at the same time, I'm like, we're fine because I'm with my best friend and I'm with my boyfriend who I know is going to protect me. Right? Okay, so at this point, we're all standing there quietly, listening to the car like go around, whatever. And then he like stops. Like we go to cross the street and he kind of comes and then like stopped in front of us, but he had his high beams on. Okay, so I couldn't see but this was the closest I had ever been to his car. Like he was like right there, but his high beams are on. So I actually couldn't see who it was. And then he like sped off. Like if he wanted to hit us, he could have, and nobody would have ever known. But speeds off. I look at my boyfriend and I'm like, yeah, like this is a little scary. Like I think this is the guy who stalks me and I'm a little scared. And this man literally looks at me and goes, okay, well, I'm feeling tired, so I'm going to go to sleep. Love you. Bye. Like, Bianca, like, just the fact that I didn't break up with him that night, like, what is wrong with you? Like, how fucking sad were you in life that you fucking took that? Like, who hurt you? I shit you the fuck not. He said that, he turned around and just, like, walked to his fucking house. Like, that was so crazy. He just left us there. And so I remember looking at Mel and I said, bitch, we gotta fucking run. Like, and thank God that Mel is even more track and field than any of us. I'm running for my fucking life. And I just remember we would see the car, like, we would be running to this street and then the car would pass. And then it's like, we would turn and try to cut on a side street and then he would like pass us on the side street. And I was like, oh my God, we're never going to make it home. Like he's always one motherfucking street before us. It's like he always knew every move I was making. Like granted, he also knew where I lived. So then I remember like trying to take shorter ways to get to my house that maybe he wouldn't know about, or like go in from a different way that he didn't see. But like, I just remember thinking like, please God, get me fucking home and I'm never going to do this again. We got outside my house. I was ready to start fucking screaming at the top of my lungs because he was on my street. We got into that house. Okay. I'll never forget me and Mel when we got in and just like looked at each other. It was like silence for a couple of hours because it was so like it was just like so shocking that that happened. And we were also so fucking out of breath because we literally ran. And park is probably like, I'd say like a good 20-minute walk. Like maybe even a little bit more. Like I need to check because I feel like it's probably even a little bit more. We fucking sprinted. We did not stop. We ran for our fucking lives because it was literally like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. There was really nobody around except for us and that other creeper. And so I knew that we could not stop under any circumstance and that we just had to run for our fucking lives. I remember he kept calling. And at a certain point, like the whole situation took over my life so much that I just told my parents, like, I need to go to Italy for a couple weeks because this is wild. Like, it was so much. And I was so afraid. I felt like anywhere I went, I was always being watched. Anywhere I was, he was always there. No matter where I was with my friends, like I would always see him around. Like if there would even be a couple minutes that would pass or something and I would forget about it, if I just remembered it randomly, if I looked around a couple of the streets, I would always find the car. And so eventually I told my parents. I don't know if I came clean about all of the times I snuck out that I had seen him because like I think it had happened like at least like 4 or 5 times that I had seen him out when I was out at that time at night. It was only that one time with Mel that like I feel like he actually chased us. And I'm pretty sure I did tell my dad because I was like I just did not like I just did not want to disappear one night and nobody was ever even going to know what the fuck happened because I really wasn't telling anybody There was like a couple of friends who knew, but like even at that, I was just so sketched out by it. So I was like, I need to tell someone. This is crazy. Like, if something for real happens to me, like this guy is literally following me everywhere. Like, he knows where my mom lives, my dad lives, knows where I go to school, he knows where my friends live, like where they hang out, where we hang out. Like, this guy could have come at any minute. Like, if I didn't say anything, I felt like I was just waiting for him to come get me. I didn't even mention, we ended up calling the cops like I think 2 other times, because this, I just gave you like the really elevator version of the story, but this went on for almost like, I'm pretty sure almost 4 years, maybe a little bit less. No. So I'm pretty sure this started in like grade 8. I can't remember, but like I know that this lasted like a good 3-4 years. It wasn't the entire year. It was like periodically. Like, there would be some months where he would kind of just disappear, but then it would always start up again. Until grade 11, I went away to Italy. When we came back, I'm pretty sure my dad took his house phone out. Like, I'm pretty sure we canceled our house phone. We canceled the house phone. I ended up going to stay with my mom for longer. Like, I stayed at my mom's house for like a longer period of time. And I don't remember if maybe that's also when my mom moved, but like, I think the fact that I had stayed in Italy for a good amount of time, and then when I came back, I was kind of like moving around, not in the same places that I usually was before I left. I don't know if maybe he like lost track of me or something, or maybe he just lost interest. I have no fucking idea. But he just never bothered me again, and I never heard from him again, and I never saw him again. When I see the car now, like if I ever see a car similar to that car, I get the fucking heebie-jeebies. It was a white Buick, and it had like a different headlight on the left side of the car. Like, it was, honestly, it was quite a recognizable car. And I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, I ended up getting like a couple of letters of the license plate at one point. I don't know. He just kind of disappeared, and I never spoke to him ever again. Anyways, this has been a really like a good melange of an episode. Originally said that I had found a location to film in, and while that is true, I've come up with something a little bit better that I think will fit my branding a little bit better also. And so I'm not going to say what it is just yet, but if all goes well, not next Sunday. Like, it's definitely not going to be next Sunday or the Sunday after that, because I'm focusing on Valentine's, and we have a lot of projects that are kind of coming together that I also want to talk about here in the next couple weeks. But like I mentioned last episode, I think end of February, we're going to start having our guests. I think that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched until the end, I love you. Please don't forget to follow, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, barely edited, but edited with a 3. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is, somebody mentioned the other day, they're like, why are you not mentioning anything of your actual company? So if you don't know who I am, and last episode you were listening, you're like, what does this bitch do? I own Lonely Girl Productions. It is a digital marketing company in Montreal, Canada. I call it a digital marketing company, but like really, it's so much more than that. We do so many different services: photography, videography, websites, social media management, graphics, and we can also teach you how to run your own socials, how to manage your own socials. If you're someone who's starting a business, if you're looking for help with your branding, we are the company for you. If you want to follow us, I say us because although the page is a business page, the stories of the business page are all personal stories that are mine, and you'll see me a lot on that page, not on the feed, but on the stories. So if you're interested in following and learning more about me, my name is Bianca Venna. You can follow me at Lonely Girl Productions. And if you want to follow the podcast, follow at Barely Edited. Edited with a 3. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it. You can even leave a rating if you'd like. If you download it, that really helps me immensely. But even if you just watched for a couple minutes, I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you for listening. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Mirror, mirror, tell me, what is it about them? Living like it's their game. Karma said it better than me. You'll just end up losing.